All right, so thank you everybody for joining. We got Greg Steward here, one of the top producers in the Des Moines market. Greg, thanks for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I look forward to it.
Absolutely. I know I remember one of the first times we had a conversation. I think we were out to dinner at the range with the key group, and some of the things that you said was just like really caught my attention. And to see that you back that up with your production, I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer conversation. So I was really looking forward to this one. So if you could talk about a little bit like where you're from, how you got started in real estate, what you were doing before real estate, everything.
Yeah, for sure. So originally, I guess I can backtrack here. Born in Kansas, then went to Seattle, and then from the ages of 2 to 6, my mom's Korean, and my dad was in the army, so lived in Seoul, South Korea, until I was 6, and then we came here. And my dad was originally from Burlington, Iowa, Southeast Iowa, and moved there and grew up there, and went to college up in Dubuque and have been in Des Moines since 2011 now. So right after college, I moved here. Didn't really know what I was going to do. And I kind of have a funny story. I worked at my mom's restaurant in Iowa City in the summers during college. And there were these real estate developers and brokers that came in to eat probably every other day. And I got along with them. And when I was moving to Des Moines, I didn't really have a plan besides, there's good opportunity, and had some friends here, and they were pretty much offered me free pre-licensing at Skogman, Cedar Rapids that summer. And they said they'd pay for it. And, if you get to Des Moines, you think that's something you want to pursue, they thought I would be good at it. And I took them up on it because I didn't really have another plan at that time. I was going to go into physical therapy, sports medicine originally, and then had a short internship in Cedar Rapids. Didn't know if that's what I wanted to do. So moved here and got an opportunity with Tim Schutte. I actually just emailed a bunch of brokers when I moved here, just seeing if anyone was looking for a part-time assistant. Or anything, just get a paycheck right out of college. And Tim got a hold of me. At that time, it was Prudential First Realty, and now it's Berkshire Hathaway. And worked with him for 4 years. Was unlicensed for about a year, and then got my license, and then haven't looked back since. So real estate wasn't really, it always, intrigued me, but it wasn't, that's not when I grew up saying, man, I think I'm going to get into real estate, and even through college. So.
Yeah, no, that's a great start. That's crazy that from Seoul to Burlington to Des Moines, and now you're
Yeah.
that's a big journey.
Difference. Yeah.
What school in Dubuque did you go to?
I played football at University of Dubuque.
Well,
It's a
that's too
smaller school,
bad.
Iowa Conference. So.
Yeah, no, I went to Luther,
Oh yeah.
so
Oh
uh,
yeah. Oh, yeah. We
they
played you
suck at
guys.
football though. They're not great at football, but that's okay.
Luther.
No, they're not that
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But so
They're all
talk
right when
about
I was there.
when you first got started in real estate, what type of activity were you trying to do to really build yourself up quickly? Because I feel like when you start real estate, there's a million ways to grow, and people tell you to do all these different things, but really, like, how did you nail down what you wanted to do and what you were good at to really start growing early?
Yeah. I think that first year working with Tim, I didn't really know much about real estate. So I just kind of sat back and watched and absorbed everything, and learned everything I could from some of the agents around the office, just because I was in there every day, just seeing day to day and, what people were doing. So I absorbed a lot of information. I think what a lot of people don't realize in real estate, like other agents will, they'll talk to you and they'll give you ideas and, their stories. And it's really interesting. But that first year I kind of just sat back and absorbed, helped him out. But I learned a lot because Tim was younger at that time, and he was really looking to grow and get bigger into investing. And he had a coach, and I was fortunate enough to get the coaching that he was getting after the first year when I got my license. And, just seeing what he was doing, what some of the other agents were doing. And then really putting into work what our coaches were saying. It was interesting because there's all these real estate coaches. And you mentioned earlier, if I had a coach now, I don't. But they all have different perspectives and angles. So there was one that I kind of gravitated towards more. He was a pretty big broker out of Chicago, self-made, ground up, just grinded. And, he was consistent in what he did. And, I just kind of related to him a little more. So I implemented a lot of what he did early on. But, a lot of it was just setting your schedule, doing the prospecting, and then following up. That's the biggest piece. People prospect and don't follow up, and it's the killer, man. You got to follow up. But no, so that first year and then into the second year, I learned quite a bit because, I mentioned I had like 8 buddies here. Like 3 of them work at Wells Fargo, 2 at Nationwide, and a couple at Principal. So I'd go out with their friends for, happy hours and their work networking events. And that's really how I started meeting people, is just utilizing their events that I would be invited to and just talking with them, because we were young, I think we were 24. So yeah.
No, that's so you talk about prospecting too. Just being out there so people can see your face. That's a big one, like being at events and
Yep.
stuff like that. But talk about some of the things you were doing prospecting wise to start gaining
Yeah.
business. That was one thing that was the thing that caught my eye or attention about you the first time we ever chatted.
Good.
Was like, you're like, dude, I have this down to a science. Like it's the way we have it. I mean, it's awesome. So I'm curious on
Yeah.
how you guys have implemented your strategy.
Yeah. And, it's as good as you make it, really. I think a lot of times in real estate, people get their license, you get thrown out and they're like, oh, go to networking events, meet people. And which, I mean, yeah, that's great. You meet people, but at the end of the day, that pipeline runs out pretty quick. You get tired of events and, meeting new people and stuff like that. But, to me, it's a lot of it is just self-discipline and being consistent with it. But what we did was, we would really farm certain areas. We would target certain demographics. And then, from there, how do you add value to that? Because I think that's one thing a lot of realtors forget is like, don't ask them if they want the value, just give it to them. It's one of those things that if they see value in you and you're knowledgeable and respectful, they'll work with you, and if they like you. But I just believe that you have to cast a wide net to get the people who are actually moving. And yeah, it's just a thing that it does take time. It's a process. But then once you do that, you have to follow up with those people. And that's the thing. I prospect people I don't know. I don't know any of these people, but I'm giving them really good value and follow up. And yeah, you don't know until you ask.
Is this like mailers or
We do mailers. Yeah, we do sponsored targeted ads. We do affiliated business marketing with vendors. So I've created kind of a network within our vendor list that I think is pretty vital to what we do. They're people I work with directly. They're people that, our family uses. I mean, we have our chiropractor on there. We have landscaper, mechanic, auto detailers. We have, and pretty much everyone we use in our daily lives or, routinely. We kind of share their services with our clients sphere and who we market to, and then just kind of share branding and marketing with all of them, because a lot of times people think it's just with a lender or, that's usually as far as it goes. It's like, oh yeah, I co-brand and co-market with a lender, which is great. But how do you go beyond that? I'm just a believer, if you help other people, small business, they're going to reciprocate. I think that's crucial too. So, I learned early on to have pillars of prospecting. You have the people, your sphere, your clients that have trusted you. And then there's networking, obviously, meeting new people. And then there's also farming an area. There's also, if you want to do FSBOs expireds. I just think that if you pick 2 or 3 that you're good at, that you enjoy, and do it consistently, the success will come. But a lot of people just don't know how, don't know where to begin. They do it for 2 weeks and then they're done. It's like these things, like I remember the first year I did it, I was getting calls like 3 years later on stuff, but I'm consistent, followed up with them. Just, drip, and I never really use a CRM. I've had CRMs. They're as good as you make them, I believe. But I think they're great if people are used to them. CRMs weren't really a thing when I started. So I think the way I stayed organized, it just didn't work for me. But yeah, I would be following up with people that I would send stuff to like 12 to 18 months after, like every other month. And then that would come into fruition and turn into a listing and a purchase. So it's a long-term play, but like I said, I think the bigger net you cast, you're gonna get the right conversations with the right people. So
have you tracked these numbers too? Like, okay, here's how many leads I'm bringing in, here's our conversion rate. Do you know roughly what that number is?
So depending on what it is, I can tell you that my vendor list probably accommodates for 20 to 25% of my business every year. Those are just straight direct referrals. And then on top of that, past clients and Sphere, we're big on our database. And I would say right now, 80% of our database that have bought or sold with us have given us a referral. And let's see, I used to track, like when I started, like FSBOs expireds. I don't do that anymore. So that I don't have numbers for, but my conversion rate, I do remember if I knew that if I sent out 1,000 pieces of mail, I would get probably anywhere from 4 to 6 deals out of it.
Wow.
Out of every 1,000. Yeah.
That's crazy. So in terms of database, I kind of want to dive a little deeper on that, because I think, especially without a CRM, it's impressive that you're getting that much return on that investment, because some people don't track that as great as you do, clearly. So what are the type of things that you're doing for your database in order to create those referrals?
Yeah. So anyone in my database, I have, big notes on with birthdays, home anniversaries, kids, when they bought. So what we do is, let's see, God, I'm going to cycle through the year. So we send out their Altas if they just purchased before tax time. Then in the spring, I do our golf outing. And then in the fall, we give out pies to everybody. But then in the winter, we do Christmas ornaments. So we're touching our Sphere and database 4 times, like physically. And then anyone who has a small business that is in my database is on my vendor list. So I'm really good at feeding business to people like that. As long as, I believe they do a good job. And then, gosh, I'm trying to think what else. We do home anniversary cards every year. Birthday cards. We're pretty systematic and processed on that. So once a month, my assistant goes through, and it's just on autopilot really for those.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's fantastic. So
no CRM for me, which is crazy. I know, people will be like, how in the world do you even do that? There's people on my team that use CRMs. Great. I've never, it's just, I don't know. It's a psyche thing for me. I just don't log into a CRM and pump it in there. And I don't know. It's just, yeah.
And that's the difference between your world and our world. Where like real estate, it's like it's all manual with the CRM. Where my CRM, it connects to our loan origination system. So like pretty much it all just plugs and play. I mean, yeah, I have to do some manual stuff here and there, but I also paid somebody to set it up. So therefore, it's like some of that stuff.
I think that's my problem. I'd have to pay someone to set it up for me, I think, and just
For sure. No, so talk about, obviously, you've had a lot of success and a lot of things that you're doing well that are just churning business. Talk about some of your struggles that you've had through the years, maybe
Yeah.
even this year, in order,
Yeah.
and what things that you're working on or have worked on that you've gotten through.
Yeah. Early on, it was just one of those things. I think my first year I sold like 12, I think 12 houses my first year. And then I doubled it my second year. I think I got 25. And then that was actually the year when I was with Tim, where he was kind of in a place in his career where like I'm either turning it on and going all in here and get the coach and get everything, do it all and we're doing it right. Or do I go back to corporate world? That's the way, that's where he was at. And I was only going into my second year and I was like, crap, well, if you're turning it on, like I'm ready, 25 deals. It was fine. It was, it was good. But in my mind, I had to do better than, what I went to school for. So it's like, if I'm doing this, I gotta, go all in on it. So yeah, I think that third year I had some struggles because, I doubled my second year, third year, and I was like, dang, how am I going to get to, my goal is 50 houses. And I'm like, I don't even know 50 people moving, I don't even know 8 people moving this year. So, and at that time I was 26, I believe. And I just always felt that I was like too young, or, how am I going to get to that next level if, I felt like everyone had a realtor, everyone knew a realtor. And, that's just a day old saying, everyone knows 5 realtors in Des Moines, which is probably true. But one of my biggest hurdles, I thought, was just getting over that. And I hated talking to new people. Like, I'm good when I'm in front of them, but, if I'm just like cold calling or anything like that, I hated that. I would never do cold calling. I'll never door knock. That's just not me. So I, had to go to the drawing board. I'm like, how am I going to sell 50 houses this year? You lay out your goals, and I feel like a lot of realtors do this. It's like November and you're like, crap, market's slow. Am I going to have a job next year? And everyone sets lofty goals, and how do you hit that? How do you obtain it? That's where I was fortunate to learn early on to really treat the people who have already worked with you well. I think a lot of agents forget that. Like, you're so busy looking for new business, they forget about all the people they've helped. Like staying in touch with them. How do you reach out to them? So I kind of backtracked because I was, all my friends that I knew were 25 or 26, and I'm like, none of them are really buying houses, maybe a few. And then, I didn't know anyone else really. So I think that was one of my biggest hurdles is, moving here, not really knowing anyone besides, a few buddies, and setting lofty goals, and figuring out how in the world you're going to obtain that. I think that was the biggest hurdle I've had. Hurdles in building a team, there's that too. I don't know if you want to jump into that, but there's a lot of dynamics that come with that too. So it's interesting, but I'd say early on the biggest hurdle I had was just me and myself and my age and not knowing anyone, and yeah, like, where do I go from here type thing, which is a scary place to be in, because I
Right.
think at that time I just bought my first house, and I'm like, coming into winter, and I'm like, I think I had 1 buyer and like 2 listings, and I'm like, this is not fun.
So so what was eventually, like, what did you do to get past that? Because that's like a
Yeah,
mental thing, right? I feel like
yeah,
that's
for
not
sure.
you who faces that. That's a lot of people who face that.
Yep. Yep. I played sports my whole life, so I'm pretty competitive, like, at heart. I just told myself, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it, and just screw everything else, screw what you think, screw what other people think, and just go for it. But what I doubled down on prospecting. I God, I bet at that time, I think it's a little different market now because a lot of things have gone online. Um, but I think I was sending out, I bet 500 mailers and postcards like a week. It was insane. And I was at the office all day, every day, and I'm just like, I'm just pounding out texts and calls and emails and because even then you could obtain all their information. So I just followed up with everyone, just didn't care. I had to get over the whole, getting shut out and hung up on and all that stuff. Cause I knew that if I made like 20 calls or texts, I would get one person that had some interest in what I was saying. So I pounded all that out early on and started creating a huge list of people who had some interest. And that's like I told you, just follow up with them. So many people, they'll have a good conversation. They're just like, they forget about them. And then they go to some random agent that you're like, crap, I could have had that deal. And
Right.
I followed up. That's all I did. I mean, and then started creating a vendor list early on. I think that was pretty vital to some success. And then, yeah, that was really about it. And then I was with Tim for 4 years. And then I learned a lot, absorbed a lot, and then just kind of was time to do my own thing. So
Yeah. So how much volume were you doing when you started your own team?
that last year, I think I did like 9.7.
Okay. And then
Yep.
how many did you just bring on one agent? Like what did that process look like to starting
Yeah.
a team?
Yep. So I had one agent and then so Tim had a small team. I think there was 5. Um, and I learned a lot from that because Tim was a broker owner too. So I saw a lot of the back end stuff and the team side, the assistant side. I just I think that a newer agent, if you're getting into real estate, I think that's crucial is being on a team, seeing it work. And then I feel like an agent, you're cut to have a team or not. I just think that if you've never been on a team and you're trying to start a team, it's a little difficult because if you've been a single agent for a long time, it's hard to just start a team. It is hard because you don't know what they expect, and um there's time involved in that too. So when I went to Remax, there was one of us, and then one of my friends, she actually was getting her license kind of at the same time, and she joined pretty early on, Lauren, and she's been with us for 5 years now. So we were just at 3 for about a year, and then Leslie joined, who was actually an old college friend and past client, and then she's been with us ever since then, and it just kind of like snowballed because I didn't really ever have a plan of, this is what I want to do at that time. I'm like, yeah, I want a small team and that's it. That's all I knew. And then as it grew and evolved and just had the right people fall into place, it kind of worked. And then hiring an assistant was game changer. So,
Right. So how many people are on your team currently?
so 7 in Des Moines, and Amina and I, so 9 active agents, and then Sean, our assistant, makes 10, and then we have 3 active agents in the Quad Cities.
So what was your mindset behind expanding into the Quad Cities?
Yeah, just when I created the team here, I at that time I was giving a decent amount of referrals into the Quad Cities. I just know quite a few people there, so I was referring business there, and I just remember thinking, I'm like, why don't I just try to do something over there? Because I knew some agents, and that one just kind of naturally evolved, just through people that I knew, and I knew the back end would work. So that came to fruition pretty easily, actually, because Concepts has brokerages in the quad in Bettendorf already.
Yep.
So it's not like I have to go there and do the whole thing. it was kind of a plug and play there. And then my parents moved from Burlington to Iowa City like a month after I graduated high school, because my dad worked there, so he was commuting. So I'd say from like right out of high school all the way until like 5 years ago, and they moved to West Des Moines. Iowa City was like a second home. I had a lot of friends there that went to Iowa, and so that's kind of where I'm looking next, is Cedar Rapids, Iowa City too. So I just know enough people that we can take what we do here and plug it into those markets. And like real estate's real estate. It should be able to be replicated pretty much anywhere, really. I mean, obviously if you're going to a different state, that's different. So yeah, I just said, why not? So
Yeah. So so are these agents that are on your team, like, especially I would imagine being a team leader and I think you said you haven't been like don't have a coach currently, you're just have been the coach for your team. Is that the
yep.
same type of feeling for agents in Bettendorf and then potentially Iowa City as well?
Yeah. Yeah. It's I feel like especially the Quad Cities ones, they see success in a bigger market. And, if they're motivated and willing and have the drive to do it, it's one of those things. The conversation is, I can be your accountability mentor. You kind of show you what we do here, collaborate. And if the numbers work for them, then yeah, I think they like seeing somebody from a bigger market, because they're like, okay, they're a little ahead of the curve. They have good experience, they've experienced success in those markets, so why can't we do that here?
For sure.
So I think if we're just all on the same page on what we want to do, and it works. So
Does your team meet weekly then?
no.
Okay.
So I do one-on-ones with each team member once a month, and then we have one team meeting a month.
Got it.
Yeah, I was doing them like weekly, but it's just they're just getting repetitive. It
Right.
was like, so we just meet the first Tuesday of every month. So
And what do your team meetings entail? What do the one-on-ones entail? Like, what are you really trying to
yeah.
focus on with your agents?
Yeah. So team meetings are just kind of what events do we have coming? What listings do we have coming on? What pocket listings do we have? That's another thing, real quick, jumping back. The more prospecting you do, the more pocket listings you're going to create, which is just amazing. Buyers love it. Anytime you say off market, this is off market, it's like automatically the house they love more. But yeah, we go over pocket listings, and then just kind of just an overall view of the market. And then I usually bring in a vendor every other month to talk to, whether it's a warranty or whoever. We've had a landscape guy there, whoever, inspector. And then one-on-ones are completely different. So one-on-ones, I have to be kind of a chameleon in that, just because everyone has the same end goal, but everyone is so different. It's very focused on personal as well as business, but I'd say it's like 50-50 on one-on-ones is like personal, and then just me gauging where they're at, what issues they're having, what do they need from me, that kind of thing. So those are about 30 minutes, somewhere in there every month. So, I still talk to everyone on the team quite a bit. So it's, I have a pulse on the team. But the one-on-ones are more focused on individual and what they need and what they're going through and all that kind of thing. So very different conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about maybe
Mm-hmm.
what your work-life balance has been, because I think the last time we had a conversation, you're like, I don't remember, maybe the number, you sold like 70 homes last year, and like you were just
Mm-hmm.
out of the house all the time. So talk about like what your work-life balance has been, the past 2-3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I feel that once you get to a certain point, you have to replace yourself somewhere. You can't be good at everything. So hiring an assistant was huge because he does all the marketing. He does all of our database touch. So I know in my mind, all that's being taken care of. It's done. We're good. Event planning, all that. So it's taken a lot off my plate because before that, I had to do Amina and I did everything. We were just, kids, two people trying to do all this was just not great. it just wasn't efficient, I guess is the word. So really, our daily schedules are just set up with, with our assistant. Really, we have to take time to travel. Obviously, I think that's important. So once a quarter, we try to get out of here, and then also, works. That's a tough question. I don't know. Work-life balance. It's we're good at not talking about work at home because we're in a little different dynamic. It's husband, wife, and the team. So, and then we still find time to do what we enjoy too. So, whatever that is, our hobbies, knowing everything on the back end's covered. Working with buyers is tough because you're just on call. New listings come up, you got to go see them. So that's kind of where I'm trying to fade out of a little more, is that, and being able to give more buyers to the team and that kind of thing, to get to that point, because buyers are a lot of time. I try to keep my main focus on listings just so I can have more of a work-life balance. You get one buyer, 6 houses, it's like all night, and you get 5 or 6 buyers, it's a lot. So
Yeah. At
yeah.
what point in your business, because I think an assistant, there's probably a lot of agents that could benefit from an assistant. At what point for you did it make sense to do that? And at what point do you think for most agents it would make sense to have an assistant?
Yeah. I think if you're doing like 7 to 9 million, you should have an assistant, because that's the bit. To me, that was another hurdle, is that, how do you elevate it to 15, 20 million? How do you do that? Because that's hard. So I think I did 9 million, like 9 to 11 million, like for like 2 years, 3 years straight. It's like, God, how do people sell 30 million? Like, I don't get it. That is, I think 7 to 9 million, you need to replace yourself in a lot of ways. And that's time consuming activities, not dollar producing activities, so very different things.
Right. No, and it sounds like
Yeah.
you've benefited quite a bit from having an assistant.
Yeah. Frees up so much time. Having good TCs and back end is huge. Yeah. Freeing up your time to just execute things that, are beneficial and profitable. But you can't, I feel like you get to an agent that's doing that $9 to $10 million a year. That's pretty busy for one person. Like, that's busy. And I think that's where I think that's the moment you should probably look into an assistant. And even not, you don't need a full-time assistant. If you can find a part-time assistant, that's great. Because that's what I started with, was part-time, 25 hours a week. Because, when I hired an assistant, I'm like, crap, how am I going to keep them busy for 40 hours a week? And the pay, and it's just it kind of forces you to level up, because now you're like, crap, now I got to pay someone, and now their livelihood's based on me, and that's kind of a scary situation in its own. But I think, yeah, if you're at that 7 to 9 million, I'll look at hiring a part-time assistant for sure.
And what do you look for in an assistant? Like, what are some traits that you specifically want in an assistant?
Yeah, everything you're not good at. So being organized for me was huge. Getting my database right, getting it all, systematic, kind of like a CRM. in tunes to like how we prospect and how we touch our clients. And then I always joke about this. They need to not want to be a realtor within like 2 years. Because I feel like, it's one of those things that's like, oh crap, now you're just going to become a realtor on our team. I need an assistant, and then I think you need someone who, God, organized is the biggest thing, and multitask, and good with deadlines. What you see for a typical assistant and admin, but someone who has kind of the same goal. Like, what do they want out of this? Is it just kind of a leaping frog onto something else for you, or what's your long-term play out of this too? So yeah, because I feel like you just don't want it to be just kind of a job for them, and then they're always looking for something else, better pay, that kind of thing.
Right.
I think you have to find someone that's on the same page. So
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to do one last question for you, and then I'll open it up for some questions if anyone wants to ask you any questions. But what's one part of your business that, going into the second half of the year that you want to improve upon, any goals that you're wanting to hit, or anything along those lines?
Yeah. I think we've been really focused on getting better at prospecting again. That's something that I haven't done for like 3 years now. So I think I'm gonna really, hit the ground and do that. And then also with the team, like I mentioned, just being able to kind of give buyers off to them. And then what we're looking to do, obviously, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City market, that's kind of next on my docket. And then I think, gosh, I think we're gonna have a late spring, late year in general. It's starting to pick up now, but I think a lot of agents could probably attest to it. This March, April, May hasn't been what 2020, 21, 22 March, April, Mays have been. I think we're kind of back in a normal market, but I think we're also in a holding pattern in a lot of ways. I think a lot of people, they see the values, lot prices, they see rates, they see all this stuff, and I think they're not realizing it's just going to flip. It's just not. And I think that's kind of where we're at with the market is, oh crap, okay, this is a new norm. If we're wanting to move this year, people still have to move. I think we're in a market where we're just weeding out a lot of the people who, wanted to move just because they could upgrade for like $300 more a month. We're not seeing as much as that. And I think that's kind of, where we're at. We're more focused on the people needing to move, the people that need an extra bedroom, that have growing families or career change, that kind of thing. That's where you're really going to see more of the market rather than people. I feel like the last 3 years, it was just, yeah, I guess we could move, we can upgrade. And, we're just not seeing as much as that. So getting used to that and then really honing in on the people that need to move, I think is where your business can thrive. So.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And I'll open it up for questions. So if you guys have anything for Greg, now's a great time to ask. And I'm going to put myself on mute.
What do you like to do for farming? Like, for example, I farm I attempt to farm. How about that? My neighborhood. So like, what are some of the activities you do? I basically send postcards to everyone here on a monthly basis, the ones that Concepts makes for us or has, and then do like a few activities in the neighborhood every year, but I don't feel like I have as big of a return as I would like from that.
Yeah. What's on the postcards typically?
Have you seen like if they're the ones that Concept does? They're like, I don't know, like the one for May was the farmers markets.
Gotcha. Yep.
Like whatever, July is the fireworks schedule, junk days.
Yep.
I feel like applicable information, and now they have coupons on them on one side as well.
Yeah, for sure. So So our spring farming right now, actually, so I farmed in giving them, like I mentioned before, just straight value. So it was a lot of legwork, but what I do is I give every single person that I send, it's basically like a packet. And that is like 5 pages. And on the cover, it just says, hey, really valuable real estate information for you and your home or you and your property. And then I give them their straight estimate of proceeds, obviously without their payoff, because I don't know that. And on the bottom, it says, subtract your payoff. But I do, I give them a market analysis as accurate as I can without going in the home. So I do that. So I pick 150 homes in my area that I do. And so the spring, so I do this twice a year, spring and fall, on farming. I send them the estimate of proceeds. I send them a current rate sheet. And then I have a little paragraph blurb in there on the next page that just said, or on the first page in front of the estimate of proceeds, it says, who I am, Remax Concepts. And then I have bullet points on there. If you are looking to do any of these or needing to do one of these things in the next 12 months, I'd be happy to, get to work with my expertise and knowledge of the real estate market in your area and meet with you. But the bullet points say, if you're looking to upsize, downsize, remodel, pull equity out for investments. That's it. Because I found in my time prospecting, those are the 4 reasons why people move. So it's a bullet point letter that's going to hit it's going to hit a broader audience. Mm-hmm. And then right behind that, I actually do have a list of events going on in Des Moines for that time. And I get their phone number and I text them about 10 days after I send them out.
How do you get their phone number?
Forewarn.
Okay.
Honestly, it takes 150 people in my farming. It takes, once you get them, you have them, just make sure you keep them. It takes like 2 hours, I'd say.
Yeah. So when you're doing your CMA,
but it's a valuable thing that they get. And then I also have a coupon in there with a vendor who pays half of my postage. So on this one, I had my power washing company. Uh-huh. He gave $50 off power washing driveways and homes and decks. So I co-branded that with him. And then I just put call them, mention Greg Steward at Steward Real Estate Group, and you'll get $50 off. Nice. Yeah.
When you do this, are you actually doing them? Or are you just using like RPR or something like that?
Yeah, I go RPR. I still go through on each one and just make sure there's nothing drastic, because I don't want to send them a not accurate number.
Right.
Yeah, no, I still do back check it. Yeah. Okay. But initially I get it because, if you're doing an area, you have a pretty good idea. It's just, down to updates, bedrooms, bathrooms, that kind of thing.
Right. Awesome.
And then, you obviously have to have in there, if your home is on the market, this isn't to solicit. And then also I have a little side note in there saying, this is as accurate as I can get without seeing the home physically. So, and knowing all the updates you've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one is, that's a really good one. That you're going to hit a lot of people with that, it's valuable information. You're not asking them to give you a call if you want any of the information. I just give it to them.
Gotcha. I like it. Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome.
That's a good one. What other questions do you guys have?
What kind of return have you seen on your farming? Because I know it's kind of like a long game to get going.
Yep. Yeah, farming is a long game. I would say Leslie on my team is probably the best at farming. She's kind of out in her neighborhood and that kind of thing. And she does like block parties and all kinds of stuff, but she does well. I think even on her street, she lived in Ankeny. There were 4 sales last year and she listed 3. So that was good, but you have to be intentful on who you're farming. You need to find a neighborhood that hasn't turned over in a long time. These people have been in their homes for 15, 20 years. I guess to go back to, I don't like in my farming, it's not like a subject property, 150 around it. It's like all these people have lived in their home for at least 5 years, like minimum. Majority of the people, they need to be in that house for at least 10, 15, 20 years. But the return, I mean, it doesn't cost much to do it because on everything I do, to kind of give back to the vendor list, I do kind of what I mentioned to Jamie, and they pay, it's just postage. So it's postage and time. So it's not that much money. But in my farming, gosh, I bet I've listed 15, 20 houses when I was still following up. I haven't farmed effectively for about 2 years now. But this one I just told you about, Jamie, is just being sent out. So we shall see. But I mean, it's like $180. So it's it's not much. But I feel it just needs to be one of the pillars that you do in prospecting. Farming should be one. And people think that you can only farm one area. You can farm like 6 areas. But you have to consistently do it because it is a long-term play. And I did each for just twice a year. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, sorry. So the same people, the CMA twice a year or different people?
Different people.
Okay.
So there's 6 neighborhoods that I target.
Okay. Do you like half in the spring and half in the fall or something along those lines?
Yep, exactly. Yep. And then, if you're farming like where you live, I think that's a little different. Because I actually do not farm where I live. But I know Leslie on our team, she farms where she lives. She has an ice cream truck every year. And then so her landscaper lives across the street from her. So they kind of go in together on it. So, yeah. And then she's good at, she's good at just branding herself too. So she'll like go on walks with like her t-shirt on and stuff. So, but yeah, that's what she does in her neighborhood. So
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, then I will wrap this up and let everyone get back to their beautiful Friday. Greg, thank you so much for this. I think we'll have to do this again and expand further on the farming stuff, because it's not, honestly, I haven't heard a lot of agents talk about their experience, like a positive experience with farming. So maybe I have to do a follow-up with this. Thank you again. Hope you all have a great weekend, and I will send the recording out. And then Greg, I'll follow up with you after this about some of the recording as well.
All right.
Thank you guys for your time. Have a
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.